If that sound is familiar, the chances are you're one of the 300 million people every month who use Microsoft's Skype to make or receive calls. It's estimated the software is installed on billions of computers, tablets and phones. In June, Microsoft, once a titan of computing, redesigned Skype in an attempt to take on younger and trendier apps like Snapchat. It introduced animations and bright colours, but Skype users have rebelled. Some described the redesign as horrible. Others said it was simply stupid. In response, Microsoft has removed the features and dressed up the U-turn as a newfound focus on simplicity. Kate Bevan is the editor of Which Computing magazine.
I think it was trying to make itself more attractive and compete with all the other messaging platforms that are out there. There are a lot. And there's Snapchat, there's Skype, there's FaceTime, there's WhatsApp, there's Signal Leader, there's all of these apps out there, and I'm pretty sure that's what it's trying to do, is get more of a foothold in that market.
But it has annoyed users, and they've now had to do this embarrassing U-turn and remove the things they'd introduced. Has Microsoft lost its way?
I don't think it's lost its way. I think it's more a case that it's realised that sometimes you just need to do one thing really well. I mean, if you've ever used the Skype for Business app, actually that's pretty good. That does exactly what it says on the tin, which is provide, a conference calling messaging platform in a very clear and straightforward way.
Skype is owned by Microsoft. Pretty uncool, I think it's fair to say, versus all of the other messaging apps that are out there, particularly if they are trying to target young people. Do you think Skype has perhaps had its day as a platform for consumers, particularly when there are video and voice messaging apps built into iPhones and Google phones?
Maybe, but Skype was there first. It's one of the earliest there, so I think it's probably got a lot of traction from that. It's still one a lot of families use because it's cross-platform. I mean, FaceTime is all very well and good, but if you haven't got an iPhone or an iPad, it's no good if you're on Android or on Windows.
What do you think this episode tells us about the state of Microsoft? At one time, of course, one of the biggest names in the world of computing, but many people may not come across it month to month these days.
Oh, I think they probably do. I mean, Windows is still absolutely the biggest desktop operating system there is, both in enterprise and personally. Certainly, Apple has a foothold, but it's quite a bit smaller, both in enterprise and in the consumer space. It certainly hasn't taken off in the mobile space. Its Windows Phone platform didn't last very long, never really got any traction, but it's still very much one of the biggest players in the market. And it's had a bit of a change in strategy since Satya Nadella came on board a few years ago. I mean, it's now very much about services and as a platform. So it's not just Windows and Office, which is what I think consumers tend to think of it for, but also it's a lot of back-end stuff as well. A lot of enterprise infrastructure is delivered by Microsoft.
So Microsoft relies much less then on selling stuff to consumers and more on selling things to businesses?
Very much so, but then, the consumer products, which are pretty polished, are, of course, a showcase for it. If you use it at home, you're familiar with it at work, you're more likely also to say to your boss, can I just have a Windows computer, rather than, can I, being faffed about with maybe a Linux backend or something.
So is it working on something that will wow consumers at some point? Is it, for example, getting into artificial intelligence or whatever?
There's a lot of AI going on in the background. Microsoft has all sorts of tools that you don't really see very much or hear very much about. For example, the talk today from the Home Secretary about going after child sex abuse images. Microsoft has a tool that it gives to anybody who wants to use it to detect those images. It's that kind of thing. You don't hear an awful lot of what most of these companies do behind the scenes. You just see the tip of the iceberg, which is the consumer stuff or the stuff you use at work.
Computing journalist Kate Bevan there.